When I was a kid, I spent a lot of time looking out the window of the family car. We frequently traveled since there wasn't a lot to do in our hometown. So I sat in the back seat watching the world. Being young, almost everything prompted a question. Where are we going? How do we get there? Where are the other cars going? Are there families in those cars too? There was one day that, even with as young as I was, and how far away in time that is from now, I vividly remember asking my parents if the people in the other cars were real. I asked them if they were real. I asked if I was real. They told me that, well, of course we were real. Everything was real. When you're a child, most of your fears are simple, because you don't know what you do not need to fear. But I feared that my parents weren't real, and that maybe by extension, I wasn't real. And what if I wasn't real? Did that pose any major problems to me? Because I know there are versions of me that aren't real. I saw them when I looked out the window at just the right angle. I saw them on the sidewalk when I played hopscotch outside in the sun. And I saw them in photographs and videos. And if those weren't the real me, the me that I could touch, the me that's in this room, then maybe I wasn't real after all. Maybe I was only the shadows, reflections, and projections of myself. And if so, did that pose any major problems to me? The first time I went to Italy, I was there for a contemporary music festival. There was a midnight rave on the beach, and I was only 20 years old. It was the first night I was there. It was sometime in July, I can't remember exactly when, but it was a few days before my birthday, and I remember that there was still snow on the ice. I was there by myself, speaking next to no Italian, with the only euros I had with me in my wallet, drinking awful beer at a lake rave in the Italian. Then it hit me. I remember waking up when I hit the water. Being that it was a lake, the beach was made of rock, not sand. Time hadn't yet eaten away at it. It was freezing because the lake was sourced by the melting of the Alps. So unlike any of the beaches I knew back home, I collected myself and went back to the Airbnb to change clothes. I knew I needed food, but the only thing open was a Greek spot near the beach. Walking back now, I felt my phone go off. Twice. Three times now. I knew that it was probably my girlfriend, wanting to see how I was doing, and if I made it through the airport all right. Things weren't going well, and this trip didn't help. She hated me, and I probably deserved it. At some point during the rave, they released paper lanterns over the lake. The sky was so empty and unpolluted by light that I could see the constellations as clear as day. The tea lights in the lanterns joined the stars as they floated up the mountain. I remember looking at the sky, laying on my back, and seeing Ursa Major for the first time. The moon was so bright that I could see myself in the reflection on the water. But I didn't look like myself. Do you remember the first time you realized you were alive? That you were really in control of your body? I was a kid, maybe no more than 3 or 4 years old. I remember that I was at my parents' house, sitting at the counter, and I remember eating a peach. And I remember that it must have been summertime because the screen doors were open. I grew up on the shores of the Chesapeake Bay, maybe 100 yards from the water. You could smell the bay from our windows. The air was different then, I think. Maybe it actually was. I remember taking a bite of the peach. It was ripe, and the juice spilled down my chin. And I realized that I could move my eyes. I could look around. I had control over what I was doing. I was in my body. If I try to think about it now, I can still see our kitchen. Every time I picture it, it's different. I see the tiles and the counter. They're pale and they're cloudy, but they're there. Maybe the sweetness of the peach mixed with the slightly salty air and rewired my brain. Maybe it tricked me into realizing that I could see, that I was conscious, but I could look around. So I took another bite of the peach. I could see my mom. I took another bite and looked outside. I remember looking at the peach pit. I could see the trees gently rustling in the breeze. The tree trunks in the peach pit were both brown. I looked back at my mom. I asked her, why couldn't I see the wind? When my sister and I were young, our family took a road trip out west. We rented a van somewhere outside of DC and took off. I think I was in middle school, maybe. I remember listening to music on my iPod Nano, the special red edition. There was nothing but road for long stretches of time. I was excited to see the country, but at the same time so incredibly bored. I don't remember much from the early parts of the trip, and if I try to imagine them, the hazy memories get further away and become hazier. Through the haze, I see lights outside Chicago, a single lane road going straight up a mountain in Colorado. The Badlands of the Dakotas seem almost alien. I remember jumping from rock to rock. I remember the sketchy hotel outside Yellowstone, where they shot off fireworks for the 4th of July. I remember going up the elevator of the Millennium Arch in St. Louis. I remember my legs falling asleep in the car. I remember driving straight to the door. I remember a Pizza Hut. But these are all slightly hazy stories. What I do remember clearly is the sky. I remember feeling small in comparison. Many people say they feel this way in front of the ocean, the Grand Canyon, big mass. But there's a reason it's called Big Sky Country. The sky was oppressive almost. I was aware of the presence of things. Most of all, when we got out of the car. When you drive at night, the moon follows you, and it's kind of comforting. In the day, the sky is always there, surrounding and suffocating you. You can never escape it. Grasping for clouds is impossible. They shift like memories the second you try to grab one. My mom tells this great story about me from when I was a kid. It starts, like most stories from that time in my life, with telling people that I loved playing with Legos. I mean, who doesn't? As an adult now, it makes sense as to why you'd give your kids Legos. One toy becomes infinite toys. It's perfect. There's always something new to make. No matter what happened, I could always find a way to make what I wanted. There was always a new way to put the pieces of my life together. She says that I would make these elaborate games, creating environments, characters, and even the game pieces out of Lego. The issue was, well, I was a young kid, and my games didn't make a ton of sense. My mom, being the saint that she is, played along to the best of her ability, trying to decipher what the rules were and how to make sense of it. As she tells me, I would often get frustrated when she started beating me at my own game. What's weird is I remember these games, I think. Obviously not the actual game, but I do remember playing with my mom. I can see the house as it was when I was young. I can see these old stories about me happening to me, as if I was viewing them from afar. And I have memories of these things that happened that, realistically, I could never actually remember. But I still see it. I'm sure if you were to close your eyes, you could see your own stories too. There's another story from this time that involves me missing the bus on my first day of kindergarten. The gist of the story is that the school blamed it on me because I should have known which bus to ride. I came home, upset of course, because I thought my parents abandoned me to live at the school forever. And so I buried myself in my work. I'd sit there, making up my own games with whatever materials I had, crafting every moment until it only made sense to me. Right after undergrad, I was temporarily homeless. I went to and finished school on Long Island in New York. I had to move out of the house I was renting, attend these summer music programs, teach at an orchestra camp, then immediately start grad school. I knew the summer programs were coming up, and I had the job at the orchestra camp lined up for a minute, but I scheduled everything so that they were all back to back. There was no moment of rest. But as I scheduled my time, there was a big question to be answered. I was starting in Vermont, then going to New Jersey, then back to Long Island, then up to upstate New York, and then to... I had three main choices ahead of me. Boston, New York, Atlanta. Boston, New York, Boston, New York, Atlanta, Boston, New York, Atlanta, Boston, New York, Atlanta, Boston, New York, Atlanta, Boston, Boston, New York. connections, no work lined up, and no place to live. But I had a scholarship offer from the Boston Conservatory. At the time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to be a percussionist or a composer. I thought I had to choose, and I still think I might have to. Is where I had some friends, some work, and I could easily find a spot to live in. Where my teacher went, and tons of other people whose names I recognized went there too. It was just so expensive, even with a scholarship from the Manhattan School of Music. I just couldn't afford it. I couldn't make it work out. But what if I could? Was not on my radar until very late in the game. I had gotten an offer to do my master's in both composition and percussion. I didn't have to choose, but I knew nothing about the city. I didn't know anyone down there, and I didn't even know if there was a scene for me. Something pulled me to Atlanta, though. The food, the weather, the full ride. No one can really say. But could I really just abandon the network I had in New York? I had friends, mentors, and jobs on the island. I could drive to the ocean within minutes. And that ocean was critical for resetting my brain. I developed anxiety in New York, and Boston was too cold. So maybe I didn't want to stay up there after all. Maybe it was time for a new start. I was lost and had to decide. Picture a friend you haven't seen in a long time. Ideally, you picture someone that you couldn't imagine never knowing. Someone made for you. Platonic soulmates, maybe. It's a very intense friendship that develops incredibly quickly. Maybe it even fades as soon and as powerfully as it began. That often hurts more, doesn't it? Recessing backwards from someone who understands you. But if they understand you so deeply, you hope, maybe they understand why this tectonic shift has to happen. People drift apart. My friend and I often chatted about whether we were mountain people or ocean people. Where did we feel more at home? In the silence of the mountains or standing on the noisy shore? She insisted, intuitively, that she was a mountain person, and I knew that I was an ocean person. This difference made us look for what made each atmosphere similar, so that we could use this imagery to find the common ground between us that we subconsciously knew existed. We decided the issue was of scope, not necessarily environment. Of course, the mountains and oceans are in different places, different climates, and often don't coexist. But they were more or less the same thing, just on different timetables. Just as oceans have very noticeable waves, and even less noticeable tides, so too do the mountains that form and erode in the same cycle, but on a significantly larger scale. Eons, not days. But you can see the evidence for both in the layers of sediment they leave on the earth. Each wave leaves small deposits on the shoreline, and the layers of rock are visible in the geological record. We chatted about whether we would want to live as either the mountains or the oceans, as if we could experience the world as either one. We knew the way that we would experience time would be vastly different, and that our relationship to water would be the opposite. Where the oceans are made of water, mountains are, of course, destroyed by it. And we wondered if we both experienced the world at the same rate, would we then experience change? Mountains are largely stagnant, fixed. Yet if you were to view them over millennia, you would see that they are constantly protruding and corroding, just over vast swaths of land. And so are the oceans. Shorelines are more or less the same as they ever were, but they are frequently changing on the micro level. The tide never reaches the same place twice. There's a cycle to them both, just as there's a cycle to everything. Did we need to agree on which one we were? No, we never did. We tried over and over again to shape this allegory into new silhouettes so that we could use it to understand each other. But maybe that's why we drifted. We are not metaphors. Our actions have consequences. The tectonic plates that held our hypothetical oceans and mountains strayed, both rapidly and gradually, away from each other. Jupiter, 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 the old loft, 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 Rock Hill, Jupiter, the old long 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 rock hill, Jupiter, Sri Lanka, the old long rock hill, Jupiter, Sri Lanka, yellow 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 long rock hill, 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 Sri Lanka, yellow long handwritten, 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 Sri Lanka, safety, handwritten, Sri Lanka, safety, second try, 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 airport, 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 toll booth, 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 airport, New York, 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 toll booth, airport, walk, 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 bright green, walk, bright green, walk, bright green, 1 week, walk, bright green, 1 week, walk, bright green, 1 week, 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 long 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 bright green, 1 week, Mars, long bright green, 1 week, Mars, long bright green, 1 week, Mars, long bright green, new house, 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 Mars, long break 13 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 new house, patience, 13 new house, patience, digital loop, patience, digital loop, patience, digital loop, patience, digital loop, patience, digital security, 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 mistakes, digital security, mistakes, digital drive here, 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 mistakes,
You drive here's mistakes. You drive here's mistakes. You drive here's mistakes. Penland, 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 you drive here's mistakes.
Baltimore,
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 Penland, you drive here's mistakes.
Fields,
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 Penland, you drive here's
closing,
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 mistakes.
Fields,
Penland, you drive here's mistakes.
close that field, 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 ready, 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 forever, 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 home. I have always trusted in something larger than myself. Not quite God or religion, but something smaller, something that permeates everything. For a long time, I thought I knew the answer. I thought it was just simply the universe. I would say, the universe provides. Or the universe doesn't want this to happen. I thought that if I believed in something that was truly universal, I could use it to explain the many impossible coincidences that have happened to me. Circumstances that happened under truly astronomical odds. I thought that if I believed in it, if I voiced my opinion to the universe, I could influence it. I know that memories influence me. That's an example of time travel, isn't it? But if you act accordingly, knowing that every action will soon be a memory, it forces you to change the way you act. And if you think, like I did, that my actions, both in the past and the future, would influence my present, then that puts a lot of pressure on the universe. But for long stretches of time, and often when I was the loneliest, I believed in it. I trusted the universe. That trust comes from knowing that there is actually something that connects us that isn't God or religion, but something smaller and much more important. It's what connects us to ourselves, to each other, to the world, and to the universe. In ancient times, there was a word for this force in the space that it occupied. The ancient Greeks called it the ether by describing its quintessence, meaning the fifth element of the natural world, after the four primary elements that we all know: earth, water, air, and fire. They believed ether to be what filled the universe, why light filled a room but could not be touched. They thought that the waves of the ocean used the medium of water to travel. And so if light was a wave, it could only travel in a vacuum if there was something more, if there was another field that existed only to carry light. Scientists tested this in all sorts of ways, using vacuums and mirrors to try to measure the speed of light in perpendicular directions relative to the movement of the Earth. Of course, they eventually found that there is no ether field. Light exists as both a particle and a wave, something that still makes my head hurt if I think about it too hard. But there's something nice about that notion, that light is two things at once. It is known both by its presence and by its absence. It is both its color and its shadow. Memories, like light, exist as both truth and fiction, recreated and improvised in the moment, based on hazy images which no longer exist. Yet I believe in them because I see the memories reflected in the shadows of the ether. I hate it when composers get to the end of the piece and decide to just keep going. If something's final, it's final. It's done. Let it be. Unfortunately, this section has to be here. It has to exist. And we must live in that truth. This must return. You have heard my voice continually throughout the night, and a lot of the stories you have heard are true. Some are false, and even more are just gentle bendings of the truth. But I'm awful at remembering what to do after a performance. Most people who are also performers understand this. There's a sort of psychosis that washes over you. Perform, play the piece, hit the notes, make music. And then when the performance is done, you kind of forget how to be a person again for a minute. And so this section exists for two very specific reasons. One, it serves as a coda to the entire piece. It's a restatement of the beginning section. We have returned. The cycle is complete. But secondly, and certainly more importantly, I've pre-recorded my thank yous. Because I forgot the last time I gave a recital, and I didn't want to again. I think it's important to thank the people that have made this concert, and me, possible. First, thank you to my wife, Jess Willis, who has loved and supported me through this entire silly project. I love you very much. Secondly, I'd like to thank my doctoral committee, Dr. Lane, Dr. Coe, and Dr. Childs, who, will hopefully not notice that this section of the piece was not included in the version of the score that they received for my defense. Surprise! I appreciate all of your help and guidance while making it through this process and project. I'd like to thank my parents, who have always been there for me, often showing up at gigs hours away just because they made the time to see me perform. I love you both. Lastly, I'd like to thank all of you who were here to witness this event. It's a weird piece, and it's very personal. It's a piece I've kind of always wanted to write, maybe needed to write. I never really felt that I could write something like this. Why would I want to? And who would want to hear it? Something this autobiographical, even though the parts where I blatantly lied to you, they still have a smidge of truth to them. But this piece only exists if people hear it. So thank you for listening. So that the piece exists, we need to prove that we exist. The performance will end momentarily. And until then, let's just enjoy